Hi, this is Jordan.
And I'm Brian, and you're listening to The Quality Varies.
Hey, Brian.
My man. And my other man.
And my other man. We got somebody else on the show with us today. How are you? How are
Well,
you,
I'm hanging
Steven?
in. You know.
Glad to have you.
Friend of the show, Steven, is with us today. Steven, how do we all know each other?
I don't know. Can I say?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice. All right. Well, we all went to rehab together,
Yes.
except for Brian, who worked there.
Brian went to
But
rehab
he
many
I
went
went
times.
to rehab all the time.
He went to.
Yeah.
He was an all goer. He was a resident, a
Yes.
true resident,
I
a
basically
resident
lived
resident.
Yeah.
That's actually not
Yeah.
a lie.
Yeah. Did I sleep there a few times? Yes.
Yeah, you were there quite a lot. It is a weird thing. The days, and I totally do not envy you guys for those bad days when the schedule was just not good. And we would go to bed and you would just be there, and then we'd wake up and you'd be there.
Yeah, those were the days, man.
Mm.
Good times.
We brought Steven on because Steven just has all the things, just has all the insight on all the things, and it's always a pleasure when we start diving into topics, just in our own times. And Steven already always has kind of a lot to share that I appreciate, and so I thought the audience might enjoy kind of hearing some of that.
Well, that's nice. It's kind of new to me to hear that I'm an interesting person to people.
Well, now you know how we really feel, so we
Hey,
brought you
appreciate
on
that.
so we
I
could
appreciate
we
that.
could just solve all the world's problems.
Oh, well.
Yeah, actually, I have a
That's
list
pretty
of
heavy.
things that I have been asked to have you solve, and I need answers on all of these lines in the next 1
Oh,
hour and
boy.
45 minutes.
Okay, well, I guess we'll get started then. I don't know how many of these I can do.
To get started, I mean, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? What takes up kind of a lot of your time? What's important to you that you maybe like other people to know, or you hope other people know? Tell us a bit about yourself.
So I got my family. I got I got bills to pay now.
Indeed.
Like real bills. I didn't used to have real bills, but now I
Oh,
got real bills.
good times.
Let's see. It's weird. I like to deep dive on stuff. I just learn things. So like whenever I come to an issue that I'm encountering, say, oh, okay, we're buying a water softener for the house. And I'll end up doing the deep dive on it. And for like 4 days, the only thing I'll ever look up on the internet is water softeners until I'm like down and totally figured out exactly the perfect one.
That explains so
Um,
much about you, Steven. That has
yeah,
answered
no,
so
I'm a
many
serious
questions.
optimizer. This is this is what comes out when we play
Yeah.
dungeons together.
On a scale from 1 to 10, I am 0 surprised that you said that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of a deep diver. I think that's probably the way I would describe myself.
Yeah. I've seen
Um,
a lot of videos that I am certain I never would have known existed because you sent me a link to a 3-cylinder motor that spins at ludicrous RPMs and has like 0 lost energy. Do you remember that one?
you know, I actually can't pull up that exact one in my head. I've
Wow.
He's gone on too many deep dives in between now and
I've
then.
looked up a lot
So
of
this motor
motors.
had 3 cylinders, and the they were all parallel to each other, like in like a triangle cluster kind of, and the pistons just kind of rotated on this weird like
Oh,
dish
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
and they stood a nickel on its edge on the motor while it was running, and the nickel stayed standing.
Yes, I remember that one
That
now. Yeah, that was what is it? Duke
yeah
Motors in New Zealand made
yeah
that
yeah
one.
yeah that
That
was
thing is so
nuts.
cool.
I never would have known about that
So
if you
cool.
didn't if you hadn't gone on a deep dive on 3-cylinder motors.
I'm just like, man, that would be the lawnmower of this century.
Oh
Just
my goodness.
like like seriously, not with that full size. Like what was that? That was like a 1500 cc
You
motor.
could
Not
lawnmower
a
a
lawnmower
forest.
motor. Just a lawnmower motor that was gas powered that did not vibrate at all.
Yeah,
And so your hands aren't like falling off by the time you're done with the
yeah,
yard. I know motorcycle riders have that problem sometimes too.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's an issue for sure.
Or just like the hand is numb
Yeah,
after a while.
especially on a Harley, man. It just
Yeah.
shakes your arms off. It
Yeah.
literally, the Harley motors literally shake themselves to pieces. That's like the number one issue that Harley Davidson motors have.
Mm. And that's why the little well, they're not that little. That's why the Japanese motors have all the reliability stuff because they don't bounce, they don't
Yep,
rattle so hard.
yep.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't know until pretty recently that Ducatis were all V twins.
Yeah, yeah, they are. Yeah, which I love, because it's like an Italian Harley, which is like
Hmm.
if there was such a thing as a good, like a better Harley, that would, I think that would be it.
Hey, why not?
Yeah.
It's got that sound,
Oh, it's
man.
got the sound, and it's got that same feeling, that soul of the machine.
Hmm.
Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the ghost in the machine.
Sorry, it's been a long time since I've rode a motorcycle, and
Oh
I've
yeah.
already seemed to have forgotten.
How's the frozen tundra of Idaho going for you?
It's going great. Snowmobiles are a big thing up here.
Wow.
That's kind of like people have motorcycles, but then for the winter time they pull out their snowmobiles. So I almost had the chance the other week to take a snowmobile up to a property for a client. Then the client, like they were there for us, like they had them
Oh
ready.
wow.
And
Nice.
then the client decided that wasn't like that was going to be fun that one time, but they didn't want to necessarily deal with that every winter.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Lame.
yeah, that's what I texted that back to the client, just lame with 7 A's.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Or you could move to St. George and ride your motorcycle all year.
Dude, do that.
Uh, I have several people that are moving from. Two of my active clients are from Southern Utah, and they're coming to Idaho. Like,
Hmm.
wouldn't you know?
Wouldn't you know?
Yeah, I actually I have never Desert Solace, the rehab center. It was in St. George, Utah,
Yes.
where the both of you now reside. I had never heard of it before going there for rehab, and St. George has come up on a weekly basis, if not more, in my life after I left rehab. Like it's all of a sudden just a center of civilization. It seems like, and it's so weird to me every time somebody mentions they're like, yeah, I was doing work in St. George, or I had just got I was doing school in St. George, or I go down to St. George every summer. Like none of this had ever come up at all. Had never heard the name before.
Wow.
Hmm.
It's been quite a surreal experience that like I don't know how to explain it.
Sounds
It's
like a
just
sign,
strange.
Jordan.
Yeah, that
Yeah, what's
after
that
I've
mean?
uprooted myself and made massive monetary and familial commitments to one location, give it about 3 months, and then I'm going to do it all again for St. George.
Yeah. Yeah. You just practice up in Idaho, and then you come do it for real in St. George.
That's actually literally what I did. So,
See, it can be done.
Thanks,
I mean,
Stephen.
not in 3 months. I didn't do it in 3 months, but I definitely did do it, just at a slower pace than you.
So where did you uproot to, and then from? You came from California recently, but where were you before that?
Yeah, that's right. So before that, I was in Rexburg, which for the listeners is maybe what is it, like 30 to 35 minutes away from Idaho Falls,
Yeah,
something like that. And yeah, I was there for school. I was there from 2013 and got married, wrapped everything up in 2018. And yeah, went to California. I was there until like, June last year, June, July, and St. George was it from then on. So
nice.
I don't know. That's how I started. That's how I eventually got pulled into the vacuum of St. George. I can see it. I can see it appearing in your life right now, Jordan.
It is a
Oof.
vacuum.
Oof. Hey, don't say it.
I do want to be there on a regular basis. In 2013, I was starting my first job as a 16-year-old kid, so it's still strange to see those differences in time.
2013 was a good year.
Was it?
Yeah. I got married in 2013.
That's strange.
Yeah. I was also a
Think about
baby.
it.
Well, that's a different story.
That's true, man.
Steven, what were you doing in California?
So that was just well, that was kind of the less successful part of the job search. I did eventually get a job there, which was great. I was teaching programming to kids, like a after school program
Nice.
for that. That was pretty dope. I liked everyone I worked with. I liked the kids. Yeah, just between then and here, I don't know. Lots changed, and it's just been a journey. I don't know really how to describe that. It's just what it was. I just found my soul migrating here,
Yeah. And
and so it happened.
and what are you doing now?
I work for a badge company. So we send people out to trade shows to do registration systems, and we rent scanners out to people in the exhibit hall so that they can just scan badges and grab their leads that way instead of doing business cards or any of the, a ton of signups or anything like that.
Mm.
So yeah, we just do that, make things convenient for exhibitors and for people that run big trade shows.
Are you still kind of in the programming space, or is this kind? Are you doing something completely different?
It's kind of weird. I ended up being sort of an octopus in the company, and so I've got a tentacle in like every branch instead of just being one part of it.
Yo,
So
I feel that.
we do actually have yeah, that's just that's just how I ended up being. I was just a jack, and so they put me in. I'm working on the app right now. I'm not actually doing any real programming on the app. I'm just helping with the project and the testing, arranging all that between everyone in the company. And I'm a little bit on the account side now too, with our show clients, trying to get them set up with their marketing and everything for our product. So yeah, kind of I mean, maybe not too much of an octopus. I've got three tentacles, so kind of a maimed octopus in the company.
Nice. That's a nice thing to think about while you're doing your job. Is that you're a maimed octopus?
You're a triptopus.
Yeah. Do you enjoy it? I mean,
There
is
we
it
go.
something you? I can't imagine many kids would ever say when they're like 10. They're like, I want to be an operator at a badge company. But do you enjoy it? Is it fulfilling?
It's actually really great. Yeah, I enjoy the time there. I enjoy the people I work with. I started there because my cousin recommended that I apply there, and so I get to work with her. So she's I don't know what you call her. She's like a sidestep. She's like the sidestepped boss of me. So
Okay.
that's pretty cool. But I
Interesting.
don't know how that works. Yeah, because since I'm in like a bunch of different areas of the company, I don't really have like a boss except for the boss. And so everyone there is just more experienced and helpful and stuff. So it's nice reaching out to all of them. But the only person I'm really responsible to is the guy at the
Oh
top.
wow.
I did not imagine myself doing this when I was a little kid, but it is kind of cool. Traveling is nice. It's not always amazing to be away from the family,
Right.
but it's not too bad, and I get to keep all my miles. So I don't know. I can't complain too much because it's work. It does pay, so
Yeah.
good.
Is it stressful being beholden to the CEO of the company?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty stressful. I don't know. I'd say I'm not a very neurotic person. At least that's been observed.
I can agree with that.
Even even without like an escape addiction or anything really holding me back, I've just never been that much of a neurotic. I'm not terribly sensitive to high levels of
Mhm.
stress. So that's a blessing and a curse too. It's both. It's not too bad. I actually do enjoy him. He's a pretty eccentric person. I think CEOs in general tend to be pretty
Yeah,
eccentric
they kind
people.
of tend toward that spectrum of personality, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. My last two companies have been fairly small companies, and both of them have had relatively eccentric people as CEOs that were both really cool people. So yeah, the actual business end of stuff it can get stressful, but
Right.
it's not too bad.
So you taught programming, and you're kind of in a programming arm of the company that you're in now. Is that what you studied in college?
I ended up studying as kind of a jack in college too. I started out having applied as a computer science major,
Mm-hmm.
but then having gotten in to school in kind of that continuing ed program, so not really as a fully admitted student, but then kind of worked my way in to computer engineering, and then I had some pretty major life shift stuff happen, and I became an English major after that.
Oh wow.
And then yeah, I've had some pretty crazy, pretty wide range of things that I did in college. After that, I eventually ended up talking to the school counselor. They basically told me, "Hey, dude, you're basically reaching the maximum level of credits, so you got to get a degree, or we're gonna have to kick you out for having too
Oh
many
dang.
credits."
Too many
And
credits.
so,
I don't think I've ever had that conversation with anybody ever. It's always been the minimum. What is the minimum that
yeah,
Right.
I need?
Yeah.
How many more do I need till I can leave?
Yeah.
yeah, my minimum was 120, and I guess the max is somewhere around 140, 145, something like that.
Oh, okay.
They were like, "Well, you're getting too close to the max." And yeah, since I had transferred, I didn't really have a major that everything that I had done applied to.
Mm.
And so I ended up getting just a university studies major or a university studies degree,
Also, something
which
I
is
did
just
not know existed.
oh yeah, just take all of your credits and throw them together into one thing, and you end up with you end up with an octopus. So there
There
you
you
go.
go. Wow. I've known you for I've known you for a number of years now, and I've never really been clear about what you studied in college or what you did for a living until I think I asked you when you were over at my house a couple months ago. I finally just asked you
Mhm.
what you did, and then you explained the badge company thing to me. Uh, that was the first time in our friendship that I was like really clear about what you did for work. I had a lot of different ideas about what I thought you did, but that was a lot different than what I thought you did.
Hey, happy not to disappoint in that arena, I suppose. So you had this, what is that? You had this narrative going on in your head like I was some kind of Barney character from How I Met Your Mother.
Not
Just
quite.
like, what does he
Kind
do?
of. Yeah. Like his as far as his job goes, not the womanizing, horrible person part, but just the whole ambiguous job description thing. Yeah, kind of something like that. Like I'd known that you had taught programming, and I know like for back in the olden days when we first met, you said that you were a technical writer, and I'll be honest, I had no idea what that even meant. When you said that to me, I thought that you wrote instruction manuals for like industrial building supplies or
Oh
something.
yeah, hey, that's literally what that is. I was looking for that job
Oh,
for a while.
really? Holy crap.
Yeah,
Man, the
You were
surprises
looking
just
for
keep
that job?
coming.
yeah,
You were seeking a job like that?
yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
Wow.
Oh, see, that's why I like
You
rehab
just you,
because you and I never would have come into contact with each other.
really. I'm just well. I think it kind of fits my personality. It's that someone just sends me a list of technical information, and I translate that into English for normal people to read. And that felt like the right thing for me at the time. I think I could still do it. I haven't exactly gotten dumber since then. I'd probably have to bring my skills back up, but yeah.
I will say that with the college stuff, I didn't have any idea what you studied in college, but what you did do in college fits perfectly with my narrative of what you did. As far as like you just did the things and you just got this ambiguous degree, which I can totally relate to. I mean, my college experience was exactly that. I just threw my hands up in the air before I actually got the piece of paper. And
Hmm.
then my first job for 6 years, that was the same experience for me where I was just an octopus. That definitely resonates
Hmm.
with me. But I'm not surprised at all that you're the one that not only did it, and but you're also the first person to explain to me that there is a university studies degree. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Hey,
This let me try to let me just try to explain what I'm thinking here. The story that you've told us about switching majors and looking for jobs that I didn't even realize existed. Lots of, and you mentioned yourself these wild life experiences. Has has your direction in life, the path you've been on, has that ever been like a source of like meaning for your life? Have you gained like personal strength or a sense of identity to cling on to from these your studies or your any jobs or career paths you've started on?
um, that's kind of hard to say. I haven't,
Was it
I
a
haven't
clear
really.
question?
Yeah, I think I know what you're asking. Have I managed to derive meaning in my life from kind of the whole life search, job, school
Hmm.
thing? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like, has that ever been like a quest for you to like? So like, I'll just explain it in terms of my life. Like, I've always wanted to help people, and that was like my quest. Was like, how can I put
Mm,
myself in a position professionally to help people the most? And so I started out wanting to do physical therapy, and then I switched from physical therapy to psychology, and then kind of weaseled and waffled around within psychology to therapy to psychiatry, and then back to now I'm back to like mental health counseling. That has been like for me a quest in my life to like attain this academic and professional position where I can like provide something to people.
mm.
Has that ever been the case for you, or can you relate to that in any way?
I think I can at a level, that's for sure. As a little kid, I was always maybe this contributed to a lot of my life's problems too. But as a little kid, I was a pretty, I don't know how to say it, um, kind of a bright kid,
Mm-hmm.
just like a visibly bright kid. And so I was always told by people, so including people in my family, including my teachers, other kids, that whatever you want to do with your life, you can just do it. Like anything that you could want is something that you
Mm-hmm.
could get. And I kind of had a tough time with that. And I think there was some level at which I just was really hoping that I could just be told what to do
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm.
and then go after that thing. And it's taken a long time for me to come to terms with the fact that really no one's really going to do that. Or people can tell me what to do, but if they did, would I really be so satisfied with what they told me to do, with just doing what people say? And so I think that was a big shift for me when I just recognized, okay, well, I'm gonna have to do this. Like I'm gonna have to do it myself. Figure out figure out what it is that I really want out of my life. What do I want it to look like? What do I want my relationships to look like? How do I want to interact with other people, with my family? I don't know. I guess I'm still on that search. I haven't really settled on
Mm-hmm.
something that would be like the thing for me to do.
You're still on the path. You're
Um,
still experiencing stuff on it, and
oh, definitely. Yeah. I do like where I'm at right now. So I'll just make that clear. In case anyone from my work listens in, I'm actually pretty happy with what's going on right now.
I I like my job. I like my coworkers. The environment I work in is a safe and hospitable place.
Yes, yes, that's all actually true. Um,
I know I got a text from one of your coworkers telling me to say that. So
yeah, well, I might as well just cover all the bases, right? I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not giving legal advice.
There
yeah,
you go. Yeah, yeah.
please consult with your doctor before you consider going on philosophical journeys about your life.
Right. I guess that what's working for me is just trying to see maybe every day what is the best thing that I could do? Like, what is the thing that I could do to reduce harm for the most people,
Mhm.
or to maybe to increase the enjoyment for the most people. And it's not like I always do that. I'm not. I'm kind of a distractible guy too.
I can relate.
Yeah, and so anyways, that journey is kind of distilled to that question. What is the thing that I could do to help the most people in the shortest amount of time? And kind of figuring out what that is. And I think that was part of my vision when I became an English major at first, is because I didn't have any like illusions about, maybe it should be delusions. I didn't have any delusions about being like a fiction author and making a ton of money. But I did have the idea that people who write are people who reach people. Like if someone reads the work of a writer, then that work can change their heart, or it can change the way they see something, or help them see something about their own life. And it's not even necessarily something that I did, other than me sharing my own personal experience through a work of fiction with another person. And then that experience being relatable and reachable, and then them reading that. And so yeah, I mean that's kind of my hope, is that eventually I will get a work of fiction done that relays what I feel has helped me a lot in my life. Things that I feel are truer than I could say in like a literal sense. I don't know. I think that's what I like about fiction, is that a lot of the time it's truer than nonfiction in that way.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
like
so it's impossible to not. I mean, to not base it off of either emotionally or logically or experiences or the stories that are being told in some way. Something is being based off of an experience or something that's important to the writer, whether it's the writer bases the entire piece around a lesson that they feel is extremely important to them, or a lesson that they learned in their life that was integral for them to learn, or there's some other truth to be found in there. So I can definitely resonate with that.
Hmm.
while you were talking, the term human just kept popping into my mind, and the way stories are told, especially in fiction and fantasy fiction, there you have characters that are displayed in such a way to make known their flaws and their weaknesses, and the journey or the story, the book or the movie is about character facing a challenge that targets a weakness, like hubris. That's a classic one.
Hmm.
For just one example, but I think you're exactly right that fiction is many times truer than nonfiction, in that sense that there's some un un it's kind of spoken, but the this unspoken level of relatability between consumer, the reader or viewer, and the character, which is
Hmm.
which is usually an extension of the author.
Hmm.
And I think that's so like beautiful and powerful that we have that ability to to make alliterations in that way and convey stories and messages and meaning in an entertaining way while still delivering
Hmm.
a meaningful, beneficial message that might, as you said, touch somebody's heart.
Yeah. When I think of it, I'm like, well, for the longest time, the only way that humans could relate real experiences to each other was with
Mm-hmm.
stories, not with not with anything else. So someone telling what they did with their life, say someone did some legendary thing, right? They overcame a great challenge, and by them overcoming that great challenge, they brought other people with them to overcome that same great challenge and made it easier for everyone else after them. And then that just gets distilled, and at the level that it's not really that important whether or not the literal events happened or not. but the character's principles, their guiding characteristics, say their courage or their ability to bring peace to other people or joy or any of those things, gets distilled into the person, gets distilled into the character of that person to where they're not just their own self or they're not just the writer anymore, they're everyone.
Mm.
And I think that's what makes it so relatable, and that's what's made religion such a big thing for for everyone for such a long time. And I'm saying this as a believer, but there's a lot of things in religion that non-believers can find useful, whether or not they believe.
Mm.
And there's a lot of things in my belief, in the things, well, I'd say in my beliefs, that it doesn't matter whether or not they're literally true. I do know that if if I let those things guide my life, that my life's going to turn out better. And I know that because I've just done that for a long enough period of time to recognize that this is the effect they have on me. Whether or not that's true for everyone, I know it's true for me.
That's actually kind of been the I related a lot to that, and with religious stuff, some people kind of find I've gotten reactions of kind of off-putting or some discomfort from that, but I'm very comfortable with that being an approach to take to personal spirituality or religious beliefs. Is there's a lot of days where I've just with my faiths, I'll just kind of think to myself like I haven't seen a ton of people like fully gung ho kind of followed some of these things that I see in front of me and had things go terribly for them as a direct consequence of these things, not something externally. So there's nothing wrong, like there's not a whole lot wrong with me following them. And then based on experience, a lifetime of experience, I can then back my own history, say like, yeah, things have gone pretty well. And so if that day the only thing I can take is a logical approach, then even that logical approach is like, yeah, things are, I mean, there's not a whole lot of reason to go do something else. Does that kind of does that kind of sound like what you were saying?
Yeah, yeah, it really sounds a lot like it. I do know that there are times in my spiritual journey that I've looked at my faith or looked at my beliefs or my organization as maybe a sort of crutch that I would use to push myself through experiences or push myself through challenges. I think what it's helped me recognize about myself is that what I do actually matters. Like it might not look like it does. This was especially true when I applied it to my recovery. That it doesn't. I had this mindset that okay, well, it's just me anyway. Like no one really sees, and so I can indulge in my addictive behaviors, and no big deal because it's not going to affect anyone. It's not gonna it's not gonna be harmful to anyone, and no one's really gonna know. And how you know maybe in a literal sense it's true. Nobody's gonna know this is the process that I've been taking part in for a large part of my life. But people are gonna know that their experience of me is missing something. And the part of me, there's going to be a part of me that I hide from everyone. But there's going to be a part of me might that might be encouraging or joyful or at least relatable to be around that is going to be missing as long as I keep it away from everyone and bury it underneath all these bad feelings that I have toward myself or toward other people or toward, I don't know, the guy who cut me off or whatever. And I gained so much out of recognizing that what I do makes a difference to me and it makes a difference to anyone that I talk to. I just think, I'd heard it said that you might really know about 1,000 people in your life. That seems to be kind of an average these days, that you know about 1,000 people over the course of your life really well, or at least fairly well. And if that's the average, that means that you're 2 steps away from knowing 1 million people, and you're 3 steps away from knowing 1 billion people, or from having an influence on them. And so, if I get to be a person that influences some guy's life to be a little bit better, what no matter what that is, then that person might end up passing that to 1,000 people in his life. So every little thing I make and do, I don't have to look at myself like, oh well, I'm gonna cause all these problems if I make someone's life worse. But if I can be a good force, if I can be an uplifting force in someone's life, then gosh, why not?
Why not,
Um,
indeed?
if I if I see that it's the right thing to do, if it's something that I know is the right thing to do, whatever that is, this is where that whole philosophical journey thing kind of comes through for me. Is that okay? So if I see someone's life and maybe they're having a hard time, I've had a hard time before. Like I get it. Maybe their hard time is not the same as my hard time, but I know what it's like to be in that place. And so if I can make their hard time less bad than I made my own, then that might really be something there. Gosh, I'm not even sure what exactly I'm trying to say anymore. Just that's
Well, you sound
I
like a
think that's
friggin' genius. So keep going, because this is gold content.
oh man, that's just that's I think that's what meaning is for me. Is that I can make well maybe that's what meaning is for everyone. Is that you make someone else's life better.
This went from work to writing to philosophy really quickly, but it gives an indicator on kind of where your own mind leads and kind of what's important to you on a just on an every interaction basis when you're interacting with the people that are around you. You mentioned that he may not have remembered kind of exactly when some of your opinions about writing may have shifted. Do you remember at all any times, even if they weren't necessarily the most pivotal moments, but times where there was a maybe kind of a shift or a pivot? You know, this is your mindset right now, so I guess deeper into this mindset that you currently have, as far as this, yeah, this kind of this philosophical stance and kind of this awareness of the people around you and the effect that you have around other people.
So I would want to say I was starting to kind of explore that direction 2016 or so. It's been about 6 years where I just kind of I didn't realize that I was looking for meaning in my life. Maybe I was just trying to find something to fill the void. You know, I was in the middle of struggling with an addiction. I was trying to figure out, you know, life life must not be this all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first part of my exploration is that I had recognized that I'd found great fantasy authors. So like the Brandon Sandersons and maybe the Patrick Rothfuses. Those guys are like the top of the tops
Yeah.
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
I think that's
Um,
that's pretty universal. I think.
yeah, they're universally acclaimed, and they're excellent writers. They've got very very different styles, and both just amazing. And I didn't really look at that as anything more than entertainment for probably the first 4 or 5 years after I was exposed to it. It wasn't until much later that I had recognized, okay, well, I'd been consuming a bunch of, well, let's just say I'd been consuming a bunch of pornography. That was not just entertainment in my life. That was a destructive force. It was messing up the way that I saw people.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I read a work from Rothfuss or Sanderson or any of many great writers, and I kind of journeyed into the classics too. So I read a lot of Dostoevsky and stuff, and oh,
Dostoevsky, man,
he, that dude that dude blew me
that guy's
away. He knew
awesome.
things like that the dude was a
Yeah,
prophet. He predicted
yeah.
so much, and that was all just because he he wrote stories in the world as he saw it, and he saw it clearly, and he saw it properly. He was able to predict the way the world was going to go. Oh, hey, guess who's here?
Oh,
Nice.
hello.
A nice little surprise visit.
Yep, yep. Oh, now she's rolling around and telling me about rolling. She's so adorable. I can't wait. to get together with
I know. I was just
with
thinking
you
while she
guys
was
in real
rolling
life.
around and talking to you, I was like, that could be just a female version of my 2-year-old. They'd get along great.
Nothing would make me more honored than being in-laws with Brian.
Oh, bro, can you imagine?
Not that we're making
No.
plans or anything.
I was gonna say, I
I've
was like, I
sworn
mean,
not to do that for any of my kids because my mom was trying to marry me off, like to everybody, and I didn't like it. So I
Hmm.
promised myself that I would never do that to my kids. That being said,
I was waiting for the but. You ended the sentence at a tone of voice that indicated
yes,
you're gonna set up mini
Yes.
play dates. That's what you're saying.
yeah, yeah, play dates.
Man, I hope so.
I'm very curious a decade from now what really, because it's not like we can. It's happening, and it's not necessarily anybody's fault as far as the pandemic and kids that were going to high school or kids that were going to school in general. Just yeah, kids' general upbringing. If if there's a lot of times in a lot of people's lives where 3 years, because we're going on our third year of the pandemic now, that it's had, I mean, whatever people's opinion about it, it's had a great effect on a lot of people's lives. And if you were, if those 3 years were like your first 3 years in school or your last 3 years in public school, in high school, I'm just really curious to kind of see what we see from that over the next few years afterwards, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
Just my curious
for
mind
sure.
just wants to, after all the dust is settled and people take the time and we're looking at the history of it many years down the road, it'll just be interesting to see like what was all the data, what was happening in all these different avenues of life.
Hmm. Let me see. I'll close up that last question real quick. Yeah. So if I'd been consuming this form of so-called entertainment, no resentment toward that whole industry or anything
Mm-hmm.
on my own personal, but it was definitely destructive and for myself at least, and it really messed up the way that I saw people, and that was what I had seen for a long time as a form of entertainment. If I was to look through and think of entertaining experiences for me that were not so destructive, things that were uplifting or encouraging for me, that was when kind of my perspective or kind of my opinions a shift had shifted a little bit on writing, and on reading, like just recognizing that what I consume, my habits become my standards there. So I just I can't let myself have habits that aren't useful anymore. And I find consuming fiction, fantasy, to not be a problem because it does encourage me, it does uplift me, and it helps me be a more relatable person for other people.
Ah, man, I just love everything you've said. I'm big fan of the hero's journey. I think there's something so like primordially human about the hero's journey on like an individual level. There's things that happen in our lives that we view as hard that other people might not think that our life is hard. But one thing that one thing that my wife tries to teach me a lot is that other people's hard is different than my hard. Um, I I tend to be a pretty critical person of things that I view as weak, and I absolutely own the fact that that stems from an internal critique of parts of myself that I view as weak, and I do a really good job of turning that out on other people as well. But the the beauty of the hero's journey and the really relatable thing that I think about the hero's journey is that the hero is everyone, and the journey is everything that we as a race and a species and a society go through that challenges us. At the end of the story, the hero is different. The character is different somehow. They've refined themselves through the journey, through the quest or adventure that has changed them. And like you said, Stephen, they oftentimes bring others with them on the journey, or that change is distilled in them and is able to be passed to other people after the fact. It's so hopeful that everybody has their own hero's journey, and mine is different from both of yours, but that doesn't make it any less heroic. And that's, I guess that's what I'm working on right now, is the things that I get to do in my life to emulate the archetypal hero, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I like archetypal heroes.
Well, are there any other kind of pockets or kind of these dives into philosophy, or maybe the taking the question from the other side, from any other dives into stuff like this in the past? Are there any other life lessons that are important to you that you kind of apply yourself as far as your interactions with others, your take on knowledge, your take on family, anything like that? Has anything else been impressed upon you, or you've kind of seen around you and really resonated with and kind of grabbed onto over the last few years?
I really love seeing someone at the top of their own game. Like no matter what that happens to be, that's just I don't know how to say that. It's like a gosh,
Inspiring.
what's even the word for that? It's inspiring. It's like it's inspiring, but it's like the pinnacle of
Mm-hmm.
inspiring. So if I see someone doing something great, I think that's why people do sports at all,
Mm-hmm.
is to like if you look at a game, you might think that football or that MMA, even MMA is a cooperative game. It's not. I mean, it's competitive, but it's cooperative more than anything else. Because at the beginning, there's a set of rules that all participants agree to abide by for the course of the game. Within those rules, how far can you push each other to be great?
Mm-hmm.
Is how I've started to see games like that. And that's how I see people who play video games for competition. Um, they just they're making a set of rules. They make a new set of rules, and within those rules, what is the upper limit of what a person can do? And I think that's just beautiful, and I think that's something that's, even though it's not directly applicable a lot of the time. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna I'm gonna get better as a competition shooter. I'd really love to get better as a competition shooter. Don't get me wrong. I just don't see how being a better shooter is necessarily going to make me a better person. But it will, because I'll have a set of rules that I've agreed to, that I've pushed myself to. And while working within those rules or within those boundaries, how far can I push myself in real life to be great at whatever it is? I think that's one of the main things that people learn when they play games, whatever game, any game. So I guess that's one.
Wow.
And it doesn't even need to be a game. It might just be them in their element, in their art, just doing something amazing.
Yeah, I think there is like a natural. I've had the experience many times, and I think it is a just a human thing to be able to something that may have no personal interest to me. Some of the artistic spaces, maybe some forms of dance, or some type of game related thing. There's a lot of sports that I don't have a personal interest in, but with a couple questions and answers and a couple minutes of watching and having something explained to me, I can understand enough about what is going on to appreciate somebody at the top, or somebody that is just kind of like you were saying at the pinnacle of what can be achieved kind of in this space. And especially, we're all kind of working with the human brain and the human body, and so there's just this level of respect that I feel like we can just appreciate in other people who have taken this like very acute thing in the world, the mind and the body, and they've just gone as far in a certain direction as they can possibly go, against a bunch of other people, or not even necessarily all the time, but yeah, just taking it and just going, just taking it to the moon. And yeah, there's just respect there. I mean, I think that's why, something like the Olympic Games or other such things, I don't have an interest in really any of those sports, but there is an impressiveness to just like, I can't not respect some of the things that I see on there, when I do tune in, because I can ask somebody two questions, and then after I understand enough about the sport, I'm like, oh, that person just spent a good portion of their life learning how to do that thing that they just did, and they did it perfectly. So yeah, and that can be, anything with the, any of these art fields, anything. It's just impressive to see somebody apply themselves like that, or, on a smaller level, getting to know somebody a little bit on a deeper level. And you see that, maybe they're taking care of a family, or they're dealing with things that I might find extremely stressful to do and very overwhelming. And you see them just excelling at it and dealing with these problems and just punching through. And like you were saying, just on their game. And there's a respect there that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm just witnessing something, and it's, in a way, it's kind of a small gift to me that I just get to witness it for half a second. That's one way that I would explain it for my own experiences.
Do you guys cry at the Olympics? Because I do. Like, not like full on like sobbing tears crying, but just exactly
not like rom-com, like
no. No, not like Oscar worthy, performance crying.
Like Ryan Reynolds is proposing
Yeah.
at the end,
Yeah, no, not like tears streaming down my face or anything, but like I get misty-eyed at the Olympics, especially when the athlete nails their performance. Like, and like everybody feels it. The crowd that's there feels it. The athlete absolutely feels it, and they're just like over the moon that they just feel that they nailed it, and the crowd knows it, and the judges know it, and like I know it. I'm sitting on the couch, like that gets me teary eyed. Like I get misty eyed at that stuff. At Desert Solace, we volunteered a lot at the races around town in St. George. I've got a closet full of shirts from 5Ks and 10Ks and half marathons and all the other things that people have trained for and raced for. And there's something about the Ironman. Did either of you get to volunteer at an Ironman?
No, I
The
didn't.
timing of our stay was didn't line up with any most of the outdoor activities that were going on in St. George.
That seems about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a marathon and a half marathon when I was there.
Gotcha. Yeah, there was just something about the Ironman specifically that, like, when we got to spend time around the finish line and the Snow Canyon half marathon. Actually, I'm going to talk, the Snow Canyon half marathon. Most of the time that we volunteered at these races, we were handing out water somewhere on the track. And so people were rude to us. They were tired, exhausted, pushing their bodies beyond limits. And they'd grab the water, like splash it on themselves and splash it on us, and then throw it on the ground. Throw the cup on the ground and we have to pick it up. But at the Snow Canyon Marathon, we got picked to hand the medals to the people like 20 yards after the finish line. That was like so cool to see, because half marathon's it's not like a super, what some would call an ultra distance, but it's 13 miles, man. That's farther than I ever want to run.
It's plenty far. No worries, it's plenty.
I mean, it's certainly past the point of any, like, so rare it is that a person that can go do that without conscious, like, training beforehand. So like nobody, like almost nobody is out there without, like, everybody out there has had an experience for the past couple weeks or the past couple months to
Working
prepare for this.
it. Right.
Yeah, working for it.
Right. It's not like a flat race. There's a lot of hills in that area. And so it's like a hard run. And these people who've been working for this is like a big goal for a lot of people. They come through with like tears in their eyes, and they're like, you can see their eyes are bloodshot, and they're just like beyond themselves, They're like, they've just had an experience like beyond anything that they've ever done. And we got to be there, and like the medal for achieving the accomplishment, that was so cool and uplifting. And our friend Antonio actually ran that race, and we got to hand him a medal. And that was just such, like you said, the pinnacle of inspiring experiences. And the Ironman was the same way. Just the St. George Ironman is famous for being nearly or more difficult than the Hawaiian Ironman. The amount of training and preparation, physically and mentally, to do that on a level that I never want to get to. the feeling of accomplishment and the status of being an Iron Man after finishing that race was, you can see it on their faces. And I think that's what you were talking about, like at the top of their game. It's like there's like a different level of energy there. It's like the achievement and the accomplishment is like so powerful that you've trained your body to like break boundaries and like do it. I'm having trouble like explaining what I felt even, but like it was so powerful to see these athletes finish these races that like I felt like I got a little vicarious taste of what it was like to also do it. And it's just like you guys were saying, that it's not directly applicable to anything that I'm doing or want to do in my life, but that sense of achievement and that the mindset of leading up to attaining that goal is inspiring, and it is something that I can take into my life. Yeah, it's just magical. Like, I don't know of another way to say it. It was just a magical time.
We talked about goals a little bit in the last episode, but I on that note, as far as marathons and half marathons, one of the things that always kind of stands out to me is the stuff like that. It's done because of all the saying is like all the quiet moments lead up to the big moment. And so like you've gone and done the race, but you were able to do that because of all these like quiet times where maybe people were there to motivate you and maybe you had accountability partners, but you had to go and do these runs at whatever times in the day when you didn't want to, and when certainly not a lot of people would have cared if you didn't go. But externally, what most people see is like maybe your friend, you're just talking to them and they're just doing their thing, and then all of a sudden they go and do this race, and all you see is the single run that they do, and it's a super cool experience. But their experience is much different. They had to go do this stuff, but you didn't get to witness all of that. The first job I had, I mentioned I was there for several years. It was at a gym, and it was one of the surprising kind of benefits of being there is we were witnesses to all of these quiet, personal training sessions leading up to events like this, where these people would come in, maybe not even knowing that they were going to go for something as specific as like, I'm going to go participate in this event or something like that. But we got to watch them like day by day, just like walk in and just, I don't know, they just walk in, they wouldn't talk, and they would just sit there every night, hood on, just running. I remember one of the times, this guy, he walked in, and just I don't want to, like, just a stereotypical, like, middle-aged, maybe, like, bald, like, pot-belly dad. dude. Like, just not like he just wasn't in shape, didn't want to be there, and he just came in, but he kept coming in. And that we were talking about kind of gym attendance at the beginning of each year. He came at the beginning of the year. Honestly, we didn't think we were going to see him too much. He just kept coming. A couple weeks in, he just makes it. He's never talked to any of us. He just checks in. We say hi. He doesn't say anything. He walks into the gym, and he walks out one day at like 9 p.m. and we don't ask him or anything. We just say have a good night, and he just kind of mumbles something, and we kind of ask him what he said, and he said he finished his first mile without stopping, and we're like, oh, that's like super dope, like sweet, man, that's awesome, and that's all he said, and he walked out the door. 6 months later, this guy's participating in one of those mud runs on the like we have the gym had a team that if you wanted to, like, you could join the team that the gym puts together and sponsors. And he joined the gym's team, and he goes and does this mud run with a lot of our personal trainers and a lot of like the super active, like been there for a couple of years, like members. And it was such a weirdly personal experience to like watch this guy on a daily basis, literally a nightly basis. He came in every day like 9 p.m. and just train for it. And then only like the last month did he get connected with the gym, get connected with the team members, and he's starting to be like social with everybody else. That wasn't even a fifth of his like attendance there. Weird experience, but it was amazing. But there's not really a way that I can explain it, and besides just explaining kind of everything that happened. It was cool to see, and just the epitome of nobody was supporting him. I'd like to think that he has a very supportive family.
Yeah. That's it. That was his hero's journey, man.
Yeah, and it was amazing to see, and I mean, all of us. It was a gift. I mean, it was a gift to us, truly, to be able to experience that. And he still never talked to us at the front desk. and like the salespeople or the like everybody else except for some of the trainers that he connected with. And so kind of like you were talking about, Steven, as far as the effect that you in reality have on people, even though you just think it's just you, he just came, he was just doing his thing, but he had an effect on us. And then, here I am several years down the road, still, wildly impressed by this and telling it to more people. And so he had a ripple effect, whether he had any intention to or not.
Right. So now the ripple's hitting us.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And this guy might not have known that you were watching the whole time either.
No, I mean, he didn't, and honestly, we weren't until he just kind of said something. I mean, it was, and maybe like the impression I got, and again, I hope this isn't the case because it would be an unfortunate thing, but he kind of said it in a way when he was talking about his first mile, that like he didn't really have anybody else to tell, but it was so important to him. Mm-hmm. He just wanted to like say it out loud, almost to himself, to just like recognize to himself, like he did a thing that he actually went for. Mm-hmm. And that's me making a lot of stories for him that I don't need to make. But either way, when he said that was really the first time that we started to kind of notice every time he would come into the gym. So very grateful for that. Mm-hmm. And then at the very end, some of us were there just watching, because we were there to support everybody on the gym's team, and watching that guy cross the finish line, having experienced it with him for the past 6 months, like, this guy doesn't even know who I am, and I'm sitting there like,
right. Feels very anime.
Yeah, and it doesn't have anything to do. In a way, like, I appreciate it so much because it doesn't have anything to do with me. Like, it is 100% solely like just a joy for another person in their accomplishments.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had a few notes that I wanted to get to. Steven just blew through all of them within the first 45 minutes of this recording.
Right.
You did. I had look for questions to ask about deeper meaning, and you just dove right into that when you started talking about writing. And then at the very end, the very bottom note that I had written to make sure to ask was your thoughts on how we can make the world a better place. And you just rolled right into that one as well. When you talked about, being encouraging and if you said it better, I'm gonna botch this probably, but just showing up as your full true self as a force for good in somebody's life, and yeah, just spreading your goodness to people that you see. I was honestly happy. I looked at the time. It was about like 48 minutes, and I was completely happy with with the whole episode. I could have just cut it off there
Nice.
and had a and been happy with it. But I am really glad that we kept going because there's been a lot of just absolute treasures in here, I think.
I didn't think you sounded that bad
Oh,
when you
well,
said
good. Good.
it.
Steven, is there anything else that you want to just say for the record?
Um, sure, maybe for the record, because well, there's one thing I can think of that if I don't say it, then I might regret not
Do you
saying
have
it.
more disclaimers or something
Um,
for your business?
oh, hey, no, not at all. So, gosh, I guess the thing just flipped on. The switch in my head flipped on when Brian said his last note was what you can do to make the world a better place. And I remember one time that I was at Desert Solace. I was playing pickleball. The whole team was out playing pickleball together, and um, a girl shows up from Dixie State who's just doing like a photo project, like a photo collage of take photos of locals and kind of ask them things, and I was asked by her, what do I can't remember what the exact question was, but it was something about like what to fix about the world, or what problems there are, and I thought to myself, and I ended up saying this, is that I've got enough problems in my own personal life that I'm not super worried about the world itself at the moment. Like my own life has enough things to fix right now. And maybe if you asked me that in a few years when my life is a little more worked out, I might have something to say. And she was like, "Well, I've never heard anyone say anything like that before." Because I guess everyone, even in St. George, everyone's got to complain about something big. And and it's not like I have nothing to complain about. That's going on in the greater sphere of what's going on. But but what does what does that really do for me? Complaining about the world. And so maybe what I think to myself is, so well, what's important to me? Maybe maybe having a good family dinner is important to me. That's nice. Getting everyone together to actually sit down, enjoy each other for a little bit, and and have a real conversation and be a family. Whatever a normal family looks like, I have no idea. But really, just to get everyone together. So if I do that every day, let's say, okay, well, if I do whatever it is every day to make dinner, whatever dinner is, as great as it could possibly be every night, contribute my best to that moment every day. You know, say dinner lasts for 30 minutes to an hour, maybe even less. That's still what, 4 to 5 to 6% of my waking time I spend every single day. Gosh, if I could make dinner great and solve 5% of my life, like how amazing that would be. And so I just think to myself, what can I straighten out? What can I make better about my own personal life? If I can straighten out my own personal life, then maybe I can just be that beacon for someone else. I don't have to think about being a beacon. I think maybe that's a little hubris going on right there. Maybe it's a little arrogant to think of myself as a beacon, but that's not what I do it for. I do it because I want my family to be together. I want my marriage to work out. And I don't know. That's kind of a podge coming out right there. But yeah, what do I do every day? What can I do to make what I do every day the best of whatever that thing is? That'll show up in the world. If everyone made it, like, how cool would the world be if everyone had an awesome experience every night at dinner. Like, would they be such a crank every day? You never know. Maybe they might be, but maybe they wouldn't.
Well, Stephen, you tonight especially, but always, you have been a beacon for me. I've always seen you as someone who's got their head on straight and is not afraid to look within yourself to see what's going on within you that's getting in the way of you outside of you. And I've always found you incredibly inspiring and insightful and wise. And I've been really looking forward to having you on the show for a long, long time. And I just thanks for coming, man.
Hey, I seriously appreciate this. I was really glad to come on. I had a great time in this conversation.
We have a recently acquired tradition on the show, and
Oh
I
boy.
want to end the show off by asking you one more question, and I want you to give me your just like your best and kind of fastest like reflexive response to this question.
Oh boy. I'm not really a reflexive person.
I know that's why it makes it all the more entertaining. Um,
Okay.
so
All right.
we have a book that we got off of Amazon a few months back, and it just has some of the dumbest questions in the book. Most of them extremely
Oh boy.
frustrating. Only like a fifth of the book can actually be asked with a straight face. But my question for you, Stephen, tonight before we end things off: can you be busy waiting?
Mm, yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah.
I would say it's not a useful thing to be busy waiting. It's like saying, uh, sorry guys, I can't come to the party tonight. I gotta go home and watch the news.
Yeah, that's a very good example. And if somebody said that to me, I'd be very mad.
It's like a seriously insulting thing. But, maybe, I don't know. It might not be for everyone, but it sounds like an insulting thing, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I go to the grocery store and just look in the line at everyone, it's like, well, some people can be pretty busy.
All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thanks for joining us tonight, Stephen. Yeah, I appreciate you having on kind of joining us on the show tonight and just having a conversation with us and kind of sharing some of the things that are important to you and some of the things that are going on in your life.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I was happy to come on. I've got this little stress moment in me that's like, oh man, what the heck did I say? Um,
All good things.
uh,
That's all right. If
Um,
there
yeah,
was anything
well, I hope
embarrassing,
so.
I accentuated it in the post. So,
Perfect. Perfect. I didn't know that Jordan was the hero that we all needed.
oh, yeah, that's gonna change as soon as possible. But sweet, Brian, you want to close us out?
all right. Thanks everybody for listening. This episode, I hope you felt something this episode because I certainly did. Please, please share this with somebody, anybody. I feel very strongly about this episode specifically. I think everybody should hear this. Again, I just want to say thanks to Steven. You've been a fantastic guest. Thank you for hanging out with us. And just remember, don't believe anything we say.